I discovered who I am today in this abandoned building located at 24 Tremont Ave on the city of Binghamton's south side. My best friend Minu and I were teenagers and we hung out here together. We called it the homeless home. Then she went away to college to study film, and I went right around the corner to study mathematics. Why mathematics? I'm not joking when I tell you that 2 + 2 is forever 4, and it was a newfound stability that I could rely on, one that I could build a foundation on. How did I get there? My childhood, and it doesn't add up. My parents were separated. My dad died when I was 8, and then my mom died of a drug overdose. And I decided at the young age of 14, I would take care of my own life. I slept in parks and in the back of parked cars, and I spent intimate time outside. I know deeply the feeling of lacking dignity from your environment, but this homeless home, that's where my future self was born. The thing about this decrepit building is Minu and I loved to spend time in there. It was quiet. We could get away from the chaos. We could think, we could talk, and we could dream. And we realized the power of place is what we discovered in those 4 walls, and we felt a sense of responsibility to provide that same feeling to those around us who had similar struggles. So, we concocted this unusual idea that we would start an art collective called Kady Yellow Studios. A bunch of us threw in on a space at Jungle Science Art Gallery in downtown Binghamton at 33 Court Street, and we had a simple mission. We would provide that same safe, quiet space for other artists to think and talk and create. Our mantra was simple. We are not poor if we are now rich in connection. The gallery owner noticed what we were doing and gave us access to the entire second floor of the gallery. And we installed out-of-the-box shows, and artists from the tri-state area started to come exhibit with us just because of our reputation and what we were doing. We quickly spilled out onto the sidewalks, the streets, the nearby riverfront park, and there was so much foot traffic, local leadership started to notice. It was very powerful for them to come to us and ask, what do we do with downtown? Against all odds, Kady Yellow Studios thrived, and what was once an abandoned Main Street is now a thriving college corridor steeped in entrepreneurial spirit. Picture this. I'm an undergrad taking classes in mathematics, and I stumble upon a civic entrepreneurship course, and my professor said, "You are placemaking." I'm what? I'm placemaking. A light bulb went off and I became obsessed with the research. I read everything I could that summer on the topic, the good, the bad, and the ugly. She put books by Jane Jacobs and William White in my hand. That's exactly what we were doing at Kady Yellow. We were creating a sense of belonging. What's placemaking? I see it pretty simply. You identify an underutilized space and you transform it with the people that use it most. Around that time, I was adopted by my public art parents, an urban planner from the Department of Transportation and a gallerist activist. They taught me this powerful new term, beautification. Small changes on the outside for big changes on the in. And we went from blight to bright by painting the facades of buildings, installing murals, and putting art at bus shelters. They taught me how to really fund and scale the work. They said, "Kady, go get your own grants, fund your own ideas, and be an incredible representative of the public. Be a great steward of the public dollar, and then go do it again and again and again." They taught me how to go from pop-up to policy. They taught me community. My first grant was through the American Planning Association for $250, the upstate New York chapter, and they were right. That led to 1,000, which then led to my first municipal contract with the state of New York for $20,000, which was about what I made a year at that time. I thought, is this only going to work in my hometown? I moved to New Orleans, where I continued to do projects outside that saved and changed lives. Then to Alaska, to the Kenai Peninsula, where I was living in the basement of an art gallery in a studio apartment teaching mural programming. While in Alaska, the mayor of Anchorage heard about me and my work and flew me in to train his municipal staff on my methods. And then to Western Ireland, to live in Galway, to support the Europeans' capital of culture, transforming Ayr Square into an outdoor market and place for local artists and musicians. After Ireland, a $100,000 grant from the Mott Foundation, which led to me receiving the most prestigious award in this field, a federal grant for the National Endowments from the Arts. I hear y'all. If you can't tell, there's a lot of phone calls coming in that I would take, kind of a reputation. I would go anywhere, and the phone rang. Will you move to Michigan to serve as Flint's first director of placemaking? A city in high crime, high poverty, but issues that I have faced personally that I knew I could face with the people. That's all from building connections and all from social capital. Social capital, it's a really fancy term to describe the quality of your life based on the quality of your relationships. And I thought, where are our banks? I thought public space could be our banks where we could go fill up our accounts. I also identified a public space crisis. Our public spaces are in disarray. Would you go get money or give money to an institution that is poorly run or in disarray? The problems are real. Those who are funding and governing our spaces are so far from those spaces. They put our community engagement meetings at 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, leaving out the working class where the most important decisions are made shaping our spaces. They are building us parks with no bathrooms or electricity or shade. There is so much red tape. It is hard to get through. People don't know how to permit their spaces or fund their most glorious ideas. My mathematical mind went to work, and the problem for me was, how do we make public space more public? And I figured out a solution, an open call for ideas in public space. I found it really simple. I would get the permits, the funding, go to those impossible to get to 2 p.m. Tuesday meetings and get the political capital, and then I would pair people with place. And they would come with originality, with culture, with community, with authenticity. Then stewardship begins. This is what happens when we give our most prized possession over to the public imagination. A once stinky alley is no longer stinky, and it's a place for wine and art, thanks to the gentleman shown on this photo. Social architecture, civic infrastructure. The same way we build up our cities with brick and mortar, we better build up with our people. This is also what happens. Parking lots no longer sit empty, they become concerts and night markets. Sidewalks that lack feet are now places for poets to write, and our riverfront parks are front row stages for our hip-hop artists to perform, to get out from behind closed doors at home and in front of their city. Placemaking. I want y'all to really learn this term. It was birthed after two urbanists sat on a bench in New York City in the 1960s, and they observed behavioral patterns in people. They made a profound thesis that shaped the field today. We have to give the planning over to the people. We have to get from out of the boardroom and out into the streets. I had another light bulb moment. That's exactly what I was doing and how I was moving, but I didn't have the language to describe it and really scale up the work. I brought that same thinking here to Jacksonville, where I serve now as your Vice President of Placemaking for Downtown Vision, the city's business improvement district. And when I got here, I saw those same stinky alleys, those same empty sidewalks and vacant buildings, and I thought, let's get to it. Let's do the open call process. And Duval, you know what you're doing. The ideas that come through this process are amazing. This is just one example of many projects where a young woman turned a small alley into what was stinky and gross and a place to smoke cigarettes on break to a small concert venue. Through simple tools of beautification, we have with our hands transformed blocks of Bay Street and A. Philip Randolph Boulevard to be better for business. The Petite. You should have seen the 400 block of Hogan Street. It was completely transformed by taking a vacant storefront and turning it into an art gallery, which activated the entire block. This project was so successful, the vacant storefront rented, and then buildings around it rented out. The woman who spent 400 hours volunteering on this project now has a full-time job in our field doing the same work in our city. People are coming out for these pop-ups. They are hungry for it. This is what downtown should look like all the time. And I have a favor to ask of you. I want you to fall back in love with downtown Jacksonville. It's not the city it was 20 years ago. You see, COVID has changed downtowns across America, but downtowns are not dead the way that we think of them is. So, I'm not kidding. I really want you to know this word. I want you to Google it and your city. See how your city is investing in its people. You see, I was invisible. I might as well just have been the stinky alley, the neglected park, the abandoned building, but I was also the canvas. And you are too. I ask that you join me in moving forward in imagination and possibility, that we take emptiness and turn it into energy and isolation and turn it into connection. Don't let your city just be the place that you live, let it be the place that you come alive in. There is a lot of work to do out there together. Let's go build it. Thank you.